and they put me in the trauma room. And I was back there by myself, alone.
And they wouldn't let me go back
They
there.
wouldn't let Jeff come back
Period,
there.
at all.
We were separated this whole time, and Jeff's out there signing consents and paperwork, and they're testing me. So they test me again for COVID.
So while they were testing, they wouldn't let you back there? So you won't go back there at all, no matter
I
what?
couldn't see my husband
No matter
at all.
what.
Faith and Failures Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Faith and Failures. Before we get started, if you're watching, wherever you're watching, Facebook, if you're in the group or you're on the page or you are watching on YouTube, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share with everybody that you love, and really send it to those that you hate. We're trying to change the world here. So we have in 2018, 2019, when I started this podcast, the vision behind the podcast was to interview people and let them be elevated and tell their story. And so this year I really wanted to try to get back into that. And with that being said, I have with me at my house today, these people they are over our outreach ministry at church, and they've been doing it. You've been doing it for at least a couple of years now or more, wasn't it?
3 years, almost 3 years.
Yeah. Almost 3 years.
So they are, as you probably saw by the title of this, in 2020, which actually, weirdly enough, when all this chaos and stuff was going on, was the same year that God led us over to Connect, and then later became the pastor. So it was kind of a big year in a lot of different reasons. But most of us, well, I guess everybody in the grand scheme of things have somehow been affected by COVID in some way, whether it's you've lost somebody or almost lost somebody. Or maybe like my wife, I never showed any symptoms. I'm not trying to say superhuman or anything, but Jessie only lost her taste and smell. So it was like almost nothing. And that was when it all kind of first started happening. And we're like, is the media blowing it up? And then all of a sudden we hear that you're in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wait a minute. If someone's in the hospital, does that mean it's real?
And I never got it either.
Because there was a bunch of weird kind of nonsense around it and inflated and all this other stuff. So
we had shared
a blizzard
the day before.
With the
I
same
went in the
spoon.
hospital. We ate off the same spoon.
Yeah, and
He never got it, and I almost died.
The symptoms or anything. I never got anything.
You ever heard of Lambert's, where they throw the rolls restaurant?
Yeah.
We were sitting in there. We had visited with my dad in I think he was in Missouri at the time, maybe it was Arkansas. But we're in there eating, and we sit down, we get our food, and Jesse's like, I can't taste my food. And I was like, just shut up and keep eating.
Just eat.
And so she's my wife. We didn't quarantine.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I should have got it by all means, but every year we go up there, it was like a sinus stuff and head cold kind of. And that's what we thought it was. So I don't know if that's what my symptoms were. And then she had the more extreme, but
it may have been.
And then Richard at church, he went to the hospital and he got out and then
then he died.
Yeah, ended up dying, falling out on the stage.
Yep.
And so in some way we've all been affected by this. And so before we dive into it, how did y'all haven't been married your whole adult life. I think y'all met each other later in life, right? About 8 years, right?
Yeah.
8 years in September.
It'd be 9 years this year.
9 years this September. We've known each other for a long, long time, but we decided to start actually seeing each other, dating each other.
Oh, so y'all knew each other way before you started dating.
Yeah, and we had the same friends, but I never wanted to date him. We never wanted to go out, but we were just like,
one day I got it. So,
well, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't know y'all actually knew each other like that.
Yeah,
I thought y'all just kind of met, and then sparks begin to fly.
Oh Lord,
been together 10 years, and this year will be 9 years that we've been married.
Yeah.
It's so crazy because we didn't know each other, but our story is happening over in Tyler, and we're meeting and getting married about the same time y'all were doing your thing over here.
Right.
So that means you're from Kilgore too, right?
Well, I'm from Seattle, Washington, but I moved to Texas back in 95.
Okay, so
it's been a while, yeah.
Well, he moved to Texas the same year that we moved to East Texas.
Yeah.
And I was 13 when we moved from Houston to
I believe I was
to
10.
Kilgore.
I was 10 when I moved to Texas.
And Jeff moved to Zavala.
Where's that at?
Over there by Lufkin area.
It's Texas.
Deep East Texas.
Deep East Texas.
where the roads don't go.
Yeah.
Right.
There are no roads down there.
It's where all the country
There's no
songs are
running
talking
water
about.
either. There's no running water either. No plumbing, no indoor plumbing, no nothing. No, I'm kidding. It's just it is like roads.
Living on the Amish land.
Oh yes.
Well, that's pretty cool. So now, like everybody, like you've been married 9 years this year, and like everybody who is, I consider me and my wife still newlyweds, even though we're coming up on 9 years. Right? That's the way I feel.
It feels like a lifetime.
It
It feels
does.
like a lifetime, but it feels like it.
It just happened.
Yeah,
Right.
it's crazy.
Mhm.
And like, I went into the marriage thinking about the good part of life and thinking about like, oh, we're going to do this, and our life's going to look like this.
Mhm.
Now, I know a little bit of you, but I'm going to ask you first, like, how did you deal with wrapping your head around everything that, when it started happening? Like,
It was crazy because the first week that she got sick, it wasn't as bad. And then the second week, her body, she just tanked, and then she, she almost died. So
so when you first started like showing symptoms,
Mhm.
was it the common like flu type stuff, or what was
her
going
body
on?
was aching.
I woke up, it was a Friday, and it's really funny. Well, not funny, haha, it's kind of funny, ironic.
Yeah, now.
Now, Jeff had been working really, really hard, and they had been, just hammering everybody at his job. And I woke up, it was a Friday morning, and I woke up and I was just a little achier than I normally am. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? I just don't feel right. I don't feel right. So I was like, I don't know if this is a flare. I have lupus. And I said, I don't know if this is a flare. I don't know if I've got COVID. I just don't know. So I think I'm going to go get tested later today. I'm going to stop by the office. My throat was a little scratchy.
So,
Which is crazy how a lot of the symptoms are symptoms of other things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I could
exactly.
still smell. I could still taste. I didn't lose any of that. So, and Jeff jokingly, they had been working the dog mess out of him. And he was like, man, I hope you have COVID. I need some time off. And I was like,
yeah. So
I was,
Famous last words.
but
we didn't think nothing of it.
we just, he was tired, and I was tired for him,
Yeah.
and I was like, So I drove by my office. I called my boss and I told her, look, this is what I'm feeling. And she was like, yeah, go ahead and come by and I'll swab you. And she did. She stuck the thingy in my nose and blah.
And it was fire red.
And it was fire red. And it turned, she said, I'll call you, in about 3 to 5 minutes. She called me 30 seconds later. She said, girl, this is positive. She took a picture of it and she sent it to me. I sent it to my doctor. This is what he'd been afraid of. He was, since 2020, he'd been kind of protective of me, saying, I don't want you to be working around these people, but knowing that he's not going to stop me or anything. And then this was like our worst fear. I've got lupus and now I've got COVID. Well, he called in a bunch of medicines for me. I called Jeff. I sent him the picture. I said, look, this is what I've got.
And I just clocked out.
Yeah, and he had just clocked out. So I said, you need to prepare your work. You're fixing to have to quarantine. I'm fixing to have to quarantine. And then we had to go get like a for real test, like at a real clinic.
Yeah.
And
Because they didn't want that one that she had.
it had to have our name on it and a test
So
date
we-
by the doctor and blah, blah, blah.
So we went to a quick care there in
in
Kilgore.
Kilgore, and they
it popped
tested
too,
and it
so-
popped positive, of course.
So I gave it to my employer and I was off for 10 days.
10 days.
And this whole time, you didn't feel anything.
Mm-mm.
No.
Like you never
Nope.
felt.
No. And it
Not
was
even a
funny.
little bit.
The doctor had even said, she looked at me and she said, you think this is going to be no big deal, girl. You're going to start feeling really, really bad. And I was like, no, I'm not. This is going to be great. I'm going to be fine. So, as the day went on, I took a hot shower and I started feeling a little achier. But then Saturday morning, I woke up and I felt just a little bit worse than a regular cold, but not quite as bad as the flu. And I was like, you know what? This is easy. I got this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went on throughout the week, and our company had a policy by day 7 or 8, you're supposed to start retesting every other day
Yeah.
to see if you come back, if you can come back. And so on day 10, and I don't know what the magic number is about day 10, but day 10 is when everybody crashes after.
So it's common.
It's very
So
common.
they say, yeah.
But I went in, I was a little disoriented. I was really having a hard time breathing. So I went into the quick care clinic, excuse me, and they tested me and I was tested negative. And then the doctor listened to my lungs and she said, I don't like the way you sound. So we're going to take an x-ray. My whole left side was starting to consolidate.
Now, when you tested negative,
Mhm.
so there was all the same symptoms and everything.
I
It was the
tested
same
neg-
kind of test.
Yep.
It's the
Same.
second, like the official.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Tested negative.
Yep.
So she took a chest x-ray. She called me in a whole another set of prescriptions. I called Jeff. I said, okay, this is what's going on. Of course, I called my boss and said, I've got COVID pneumonia. She was like, okay. So, but I tested negative as the day went on.
Make any sense?
No.
I know. And so as the day went on, we go to bed at 7:00. Well, I went to bed at 5:00 that
She
evening.
went. It was early.
7:00 is early.
But 5:00, I was heading that way, and Jeff was like, "Oh my gosh, this is weird." And I was okay. So we go back in the bedroom, and we're laying down, and the whole time from about 5:00 to 1:00, that's 7 hours. He's sitting there begging me,
Let's go.
"Please,
to the
let's go to the hospital.
Let's go to the hospital.
Please, let's go to the
Now,
hospital."
Why were you? Because she just went to bed, or was she like?
It was getting worse.
I
She was
couldn't
getting-
breathe.
She couldn't breathe.
I couldn't breathe.
Oh, so there was more symptoms that were happening.
Yeah.
You were getting worried. It wasn't
Yeah.
just because she went to bed early.
So I
No.
was like, we need to go to the hospital now. Let's go. And
So
she never would. And
My body went by about 1:00 in the morning.
Just listen.
You know what?
hard headed, stubborn.
By about 1
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning, my body went into full on respiratory failure. I was breathing about 36 times a minute. I went in and I took a hot bath trying to get some of the
That helped
the
a little bit,
steam
you know.
Yeah.
to help me breathe. And I looked at Jeff, and if I ever ask you to call 911, that means I'm gone. I'm far gone.
Yeah.
Because I've never asked anybody to call 911. But I asked Jeff, I said, please call an ambulance. And I did it because I didn't want him to feel guilty if something happened to me on the way there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted somebody to be able to, that knew what they needed to do instead of panic. And I didn't want to put that on him. So EMS
That's fair.
came and they took my oxygen, and it was 72% on room air. My heart rate was in the 130s. My blood pressure had tanked. And I managed to walk to the stretcher because, our house has stairs everywhere. You can't get out of my house without going downstairs. And so they took me to the emergency room and they put me in the trauma room. And I was back there by myself alone.
And they wouldn't let me go back
They
there.
wouldn't let Jeff come back
Period,
there
at all.
We were separated this whole time, and Jeff's out there signing consents and paperwork, and they're testing me. So they test me again for COVID.
So while they were testing, they wouldn't let you back there. You said you won't go back there at all, no matter
I
what.
couldn't see my husband
no matter
at all
what.
because he might get COVID. Well, we just slept in the same
in
bed.
the same bed.
We've been around each other.
So-
We ate off of the same
I sat
spoon
in the
yesterday.
waiting room, and I sat there for hours.
It was awful. It was
And-
awful. And by that time, my
Did they
voice
at least update you or something?
Yeah.
they
Okay.
Yeah, they did.
They did. By that time, my voice was gone. And I looked at the doctor and I said, this is ridiculous. I can't talk. I can't communicate. My husband, you're not letting him come back here. Well, ma'am, you've got COVID. I've had COVID. So they end up transferring me to a room in ICU.
So at that point, I had went home and checked on the kids, which the youngest one was at a friend's house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Morgan, I think she was at work, or she might have been at home. But I
Well, no,
went
this
home for
was-
a little bit.
This was Memorial Day. This was Memorial Day weekend
Yep.
that this happened. And so Morgan she was off work because she was working at the college at that time, and that
That's
was
right,
a
yeah.
holiday
Okay,
for them. So, but it was also a
A
paid
hol-
holiday for
for
him.
me.
And so his company was like, well, man, don't you want to take a vacation day so you can get paid for that? And Jeff kept saying, there are more important things than money.
Yeah.
But they put me in ICU, and the doctor came up and talked to both of us, and they wanted me to start an IV infusion of remdesivir
For 5 days.
for 5
Now,
days.
what is that? Is it
It's-
just
That's a
some,
COVID treatment.
There's no treatment for COVID, but it is the first line treatment for hepatitis C patients or hepatitis B patients. And so it was the best thing that they had at the time.
yeah.
So this was before the, oh my gosh.
Paxlovid?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
never take that.
Yep.
Why not? She's like in the nurse stuff. She's Dr. Cassie. But why is that? I see the commercials all the time.
It's
but some people don't know what it is.
it's so anecdotal, and I've seen it. I've seen it happen by like day 2 or 3. People are feeling worse.
Really?
They feel so much worse. Yes, and they're having like all the side effects, the box side effects, the black label side. They're having all of those, and they're
Side
like,
effects
"Oh my
are
gosh!"
a lot of times worse than
I
what you're trying to
mean,
cover up.
Right.
And then they come
Exactly.
out with the medicine that helps with the side effects. That have more
That's
side
it.
effects.
That's right. Yep.
But this was before. Oh my goodness, what is the horse medicine?
Ivermectin.
Ivermectin. This was
Ivermectin.
before the ivermectin craze or whatever. So
When this started happening, how early was this in COVID coming out? Like
Like
this was after COVID. This was the year. This was
'cause
in
she was
21.
taking care of patients that was sick with COVID
This was in 2021.
the whole
Yeah.
time.
They never got.
And never
And
got
never
it.
got it.
This was in 2021, in May of 2021. So this was after all of
I
that
don't
happened.
understand that.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Well, it was God's hand.
The whole year she was taking care of all the sick people that had COVID,
Yeah.
in the facilities and homes and whatnot.
and never once did I even have. And I had to test every week,
Because she was, taking
yeah,
care
that
of
makes
them.
sense.
She was
And-
taking care of them, so
and they tested
nobody
us
else
every
would
week.
go out to see them. They was scared, I guess. So
Yeah.
she would do it.
All the other nurses were scared to go see these patients, but
I think you got an incentive bonus or something because you was seeing them.
I don't remember.
Should
Something.
for the
But-
level of
God laid it on my heart that, somebody's got to see these people and somebody needs to be the bridge between this person and their family, since they're being ridiculous and saying you can't see them because they might give you
loved ones
COVID.
couldn't even see them neither. They had
They
to look
couldn't.
through a window to see their loved ones and stuff.
And it was
I bet
ridiculous.
you a lot of that right there was a big part of the. Not I know sickness is sickness, but like not being able to see anybody can make you like depressed
Yes,
and
absolutely.
even worse without.
Well, our
contact.
immune systems were developed. God made us
To be
herd
together.
immunity. I
Yeah.
mean, call us a herd. I mean, a herd of people.
Yeah.
My immune system develops based off of you, the people that I'm around. And when you isolate us, it doesn't work.
It's like I heard a story about parents, and a doctor was like, this mother wouldn't let him get in the dirt, wouldn't let him do anything, kept washing his hands and showers all the time to keep him super clean. But he was
Yeah.
always sick.
Always sick. There you go.
Never had
That's
Let them
why.
get dirty.
Yeah.
Get out there and get dirty.
Yeah, that's
Let
what
them
they-
eat dirt. Let them lick the floor. I mean, let them do stuff.
Get those germs. Get those germs on you.
Get the germs. I mean, seriously, don't sterilize battles.
That's right.
You let them go out there and get dirty, and then that builds their immune system up. But a doctor that I had worked with several years, she came up there and she in ICU, we talked and she said, "There's a treatment that I want you to take, and it's a 5-day treatment. It's remdesivir. It's an infusion, IV infusion, and none of these ICU nurses here had ever given it." And so she said, "Now look, your kidney enzymes are off the chart." And I knew
That was
I
part
already
of the side effects of this medicine, this treatment.
Of course.
it makes them worse. But she said people generally recover pretty quick. People with normal kidneys usually recover pretty quick. But she didn't know how mine were going to do. So day 1, I went ahead and took it. Day 2,
Took it.
took it again.
Day 3.
Day 3, kidney enzymes came back, and oh my gosh, they
Everything
were
was shutting
so
down at
bad.
that point.
Everything was still shutting down. And so I looked at Jeff and I said, "You know what? I'm done. I'm done with this." And I started actually having the conversation with him that I have to have with a lot of my patients. I'm a hospice nurse,
Yeah.
and saying, I wanted the rest of whatever I had left to be quality, not quantity.
Now, as she's telling you this, what is going through your mind?
Well, at this point, I'm like, well, everything's shutting down. Okay, I'm about to lose my wife. I'm scared.
Yeah.
And then I guess later on, the doctor had come in and had said, your kidneys are fine. You are fine. You need to continue taking these, because he had heard us say we don't want to take this treatment anymore.
Because the kidney situation.
Right.
Well, and it was funny, but he came in and he was standing there, and I had a list. I had a list of things that I was not going to do. And I was ready. I was ready to lay into him.
And the doctor was like, "Well, why are you wanting to stop this?"
And I said, "Look, I'm not going on dialysis for this." And he was like, "Why would you have to do that?" And I said, "Because my kidneys are tanking." He said, "Your kidneys are fine. Your kidneys are normal." And
So the doctor
They
was
all of
wrong or what?
no, they were
They was
jacked up.
Yeah.
And then God came in and said, be better.
Be healed.
Be better.
Magic fingers.
Magic fingers. And so
Yeah.
they were healed, and I was able to take day 3, day 4, and day 5 of the remdesivir. And then,
And she was getting better, you know,
and I was
as
getting,
days, because she had to do it every day for 5 days.
for 5
That
days.
treatment.
And on the last day, the last infusion, one of my primary doctor's partners was working, and he was rounding, and he came up and he discharged me. And I remember being wheeled to the car. I remember getting in the car, and I partially remember the ride home. And
Now she was
after that, I don't remember. I lost 10 days.
she was discharged straight from ICU because they didn't have any rooms available, I guess. So she was literally discharged from ICU to home.
Now
You don't do that
You were discharged because
because her treatments was done. It was going to take 5 days. So
The only reason they
not
had
because
me,
you were better.
No, I was better.
she was better.
I
So
was
you did
better.
get better, and that's why they discharged and the treatment
Right,
was
but
done.
they didn't have any rooms to,
To downgrade me.
because you don't go from ICU to home. You downgrade.
But I was in ICU because they didn't do the remdesivir infusions on a regular
So
medical
she had to do
floor
it in ICU.
because the the patient load is too much. The nurse doesn't have time to monitor you like they need to on the remdesivir like they do in ICU. So on day 5, the only thing that was really wrong, I was building up fluid. I was swollen.
Yeah, big. When she went home, she was swollen big time. I mean,
Girl, swallow up.
Wow, I'm talking about her feet was
Really?
awful because all
But-
that fluid on her body, you know,
The doctor, when he
And they
all
came
the
sent
in,
you home
fluids
like
and
that.
stuff.
They didn't try to take care of it.
well, no, because he looked at it and he was like, "No, it's gonna resolve itself. It's gonna resolve
But
itself."
she had so much fluid on her body, it was awful.
Well, what happened is it was kind of like a perfect storm because while I was in the hospital the first time, they had given me bukus and bukus of steroids, lots and lots and lots of blood thinners. They had given me tons and tons of antibiotics.
and the week before,
week before, I had been on
because your shoulder
a
flared
whole
too.
bunch of steroids. So all
She was
those
getting ripped.
Yeah.
all those
Yeah.
steroids and all those
It was tanking her
antibiotics,
system.
my
Her
immune system tanked.
you know?
So over the next 10 days that I don't remember, it was just a perfect storm. No matter where I would have been, had I stayed in the hospital, had I gone home, it wouldn't have mattered. I was fixing to die.
So
I
at
was
the point when
fixing
you
to
were
die.
discharged, all the fluid and stuff, you said after that you don't remember anything.
I don't remember anything.
Once she got home,
I barely
she don't
remember the ride
nothing.
home. I don't remember getting in the house. I don't remember eating dinner. I don't remember the next 5 days. I
Was
don't
she
remember
acting normal
anything.
during this time? Like still feeling kind of normal?
kinda. But I mean, she was still kind of out of it, and I would work. You know, I would come home. We brought her home on Friday.
Sunday. It was a
Sunday.
Sunday.
It was a Sunday. That's right. Yeah. It was a Sunday. So then I worked all week. Well, come Thursday, I didn't get no replies. I was texting her a little bit, and every time she would text me, she'd say, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Now, understand, if I don't text Jeff back within like 30 seconds of receiving a text, of him sending a text, he's on the phone, like calling me, like,
That's
Yeah.
right.
what happened?
That's
And
right.
she's not answering her phone, and Morgan is sitting over there. Well, she's over there sitting there talking to herself. I'm like, that ain't good. So I'm
That's
stressing out.
normal. It's fine.
I'm stressed out, trying to finish my job, and then I come home every
yeah.
day. So come Thursday afternoon, she was unresponsive. I come out, we got her oxygen back on her, and it was coming back up.
We had a portable oxygen at
So
home.
you're doing oxygen.
Yeah.
What the doctor said to do, or you just did it on your own?
on my own.
On my own. Yeah. So
But somewhere in this point, I had decided that, this is okay, and this is what I would do for my patients. I'm going to start making myself comfortable. So I guess I just
and
started taking stuff.
she started taking medicine, and she don't remember. So then she would take more.
That was the
and
staff
more.
meeting she had when she was talking to herself. She was
Yeah.
hashing it out.
She kept
Apparently-
taking more to get herself
apparently-
comfortable,
And
Really?
it
And
worked.
finally, I had to take it away. I said, look, you don't need no more of this. Keep this oxygen on. And I can't keep it on her if I'm at work, So,
Yeah.
so she would rip it off. So that Thursday afternoon,
Rebellious.
she lost. She was unresponsive, and her oxygen went down to
64%.
64%
Wow.
room air. I had to call the paramedics
With
back.
oxygen, using oxygen.
no, that was on room air. That was no
on room
oxygen.
air.
Yeah,
You said
because she
that, yeah.
kept pulling her off, and I would get it up and it'd come back down with it. It steadily was dropping. So I was finna lose my wife.
I don't
So I called the
remember
paramedics
any of
again.
that.
So that Thursday we got her in the hospital. It was late. It was real late. And then she was unresponsive, and the paramedic said she needs to go on a ventilator. It'll help her. So then I said, well, she's a DNR. So everything stopped.
He said this in the hospital room, in the ER, in the trauma room.
And the trauma, yeah.
We had this discussion because I've seen this tear so many families apart.
Yeah.
That I deal with about do we keep mama on the machine? Do we not? You know, what do we do? And I
hope I never have to have that decision.
Well,
but
I
it's-
never
that's
I
tough.
never
Yeah,
wanted
it's
that.
a tough decision.
I never wanted that to be a burden. And so
when
I
you
just
do DNR, are you as the husband able to pass that? I mean, you
I
obviously
am.
did, right?
Well,
Yes.
yeah.
And that's
Yes.
the common thing. Like you can pass it up if your
Right.
spouse.
I
says-
could make
Because me and Vernon, my father-in-law, we talked about it, and we shook her, and we asked her if she wanted to be on a ventilator, and she shook her head. So we
She said
signed
yes or
consent.
no?
She said yes.
Okay.
that was God. That had to be
It was
God.
a God thing.
That had to be God making my head move
Right.
up and down
So
because
they got her comfortable. They ripped her clothes off of her, shoved the tube down her throat. You know,
She always calls it a garden hose.
It is a garden. It is a garden
It
hose.
is.
It's about as big as a garden
So,
hose.
is
I'm
it
telling
They
you.
intubated her. They got her comfortable. It was, I don't know, it was late that morning. It was like 2:00 in the morning.
So you did all this from what's the span of time of when that Thursday when you went in to when you had to do all that? Was that
Hours.
immediately?
Hours.
That was hours.
Really?
Hours. Yeah,
That was
I worked
yeah.
that day.
Yeah.
And then I came home, and then about 5, 6 o'clock, I called her dad back. He came over there, and then we called the paramedics. We was there at the hospital for several hours, and then it was like 2:00 in the morning, I think. I went home, slept about an hour, went to work, told him I'm going to finish my schedule and I'm leaving.
Yeah.
So that I had like a half a day. So I went home, cleaned up, and I went back to the hospital with her.
And I don't remember any of this. I don't remember.
It's probably good.
Yeah.
Which the body, it's
It
crazy
was
how
scary.
the body can like
I really thought I was going to lose my
protect
wife.
you.
Oh yeah. Well, and I don't know. There's no reason, no logical reason why I shouldn't remember the first 5 days.
Yeah.
At least,
Yeah.
you know, because I know they sedated me when I was on the ventilator, but at least I would remember. You know, I know God protects our minds and our hearts sometimes from things that may be too much for us, or maybe that's just not an important part of my story. Maybe that's His story.
That's true.
So, but I don't remember anything. I don't remember. The only thing I remember is sometimes people like they'll talk about their experience, like they've died and gone to heaven,
Yeah, like a out of body or whatever.
Mhm.
or some of them die and go to hell.
Yeah.
I
did
did
you
not.
go?
I went to neither. I didn't go either. It was weird. It was weird. All of a sudden, because I mean, it was everything was black, and then all of a sudden, I was standing on this really grassy green ledge, and out in front of me, it's almost like a painting that's not finished, but out in front of me was just this eternal blackness, and just went on
This was
forever.
in the hospital.
This was in my head. I mean, this is
After
what
you go on the ventilator and
yeah,
stuff like
this
that.
is after I'm on the ventilator. And this is what I'm seeing. And I feel myself starting to fall forward. And then I feel these hands grab me and pull me back and whisper in my ear, "You're not finished." So
That was Jeff.
then,
He was in your ear.
probably, "You're not finished." So then I hear praise and worship music that my dad used to play when I was little.
And he was playing it.
Sunday.
Well, Saturday,
Well,
all
this
day, I was
this
playing
was
worship on my
this
phone.
this was the day that they extubated me, and they
Now,
had
for those that don't understand, what does that mean?
they took the garden hose out of my throat.
Okay.
That was a Tuesday.
Yeah, that was a
Okay.
Tuesday.
She was intubated on a Thursday, and she was extubated
By the next Tuesday?
By the next Thursday, by the next Tuesday,
by the next
I
Tuesday.
was only on a
So-
ventilator for 5 days,
Okay.
and even on that ventilator, because I've read through the whole thing.
She's booked.
They never could.
Yeah.
I've got
Yeah.
I didn't know they
987
gave you that.
pages.
That's pretty-
It's 987 pages of medical records.
It was a
From
million.
that one visit?
Yes. It was $1 million.
$1.75 million from one visit. No, the insurance didn't pay all of it,
But it paid a lot.
but it paid a lot.
It paid a lot.
Hope so.
Yeah, it
Dang.
did.
And matter of fact, I think we just paid that bill off last year.
We did. We
Praise the
did.
Lord
As
for
a
that.
matter
That
of
didn't
fact.
take long.
No,
Mm-mm.
not at all.
That's awesome.
But I heard the music playing. I felt someone holding my hand,
That'd be me.
and I opened my eyes, and these weirdos are standing around me. Don't move.
That wasn't
Don't don't move.
Now, when you woke up, you still.
I'm still
You just-
I'm
she's
still
still
intubated.
intubated.
Okay.
Don't move.
Yeah.
Don't try to talk. Don't anything. And I'm laying there, and I'm like, what happened? Where am I? Are you?
Because you didn't just miss the time you were in the hospital. You missed like days before. too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
I thought somebody
The
had
first 5 days she went in, she remembers that.
Yeah.
But the next week, nothing. She
Gone.
don't remember nothing.
But I had asked. I mean, I'm trying my hardest to ask with my eyes. What is going on?
Yeah.
And they finally extubate me, and the respiratory therapist is working with me, trying to get me to breathe on my own. And how did it even come up? You've been on a ventilator. You've been really, really sick. And I'm like, what happened? The first words out of my mouth, however, were straight to Jeff.
You did what?
Not, I missed you. I love you.
No, of course
you put
not.
me on a ventilator.
I sure did.
Yeah.
Show did.
Put me on a
And you here
ventilator.
today.
Now,
But
hold on. Now, when they took the hose out, does that mean she was progressively getting better?
Yes,
Right.
because she was breathing on her own.
mhm.
Okay.
The machine never breathed for 100%.
They never could
What did
get
they get
me
to? Do you remember?
60. They never could get me to relax enough to let my lungs heal for that machine to breathe for me 100%. When they tried to sedate me more, my blood pressure would drop. And they
So-
couldn't sedate me anymore.
So
So,
she was breathing on her own 40%.
I was breathing on my own the whole time.
And she had a chest tube. The chest tube, she had so much fluid on her lungs.
Yeah.
We had to get that chest tube in there to remove all that fluid off her lungs so she could start breathing again on her own.
She's.
I have a hole in my neck. Whoops.
And
Yeah,
it was
'cause I
so
hugged
much
her and
fluid, it
accidentally
would
hit the
fill
tube.
it filled up 2.5 liters, like Coke bottles,
Yeah.
2.5 liters of fluid on her lungs.
It filled up 1.5 Coke bottles of fluid
That's a lot.
Wow.
just out of my lung.
So
One lung.
I said, we got to get this fluid off her lungs so she can start breathing again on her own.
Yeah.
And when I woke up, they told me, don't move. Don't move. You've got, I had a central line in my neck, which is an IV that has like all kinds of little leads that they can hook medicines in. It's hooked directly into your
You
neck.
were wired up.
I was
Wired
wired
up.
up. I had a chest tube in my left side. I had, oh my gosh, I had things on my legs that would squeeze so you don't get blood clots.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had,
'Cause if you're
yeah.
bedridden.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had all kinds of things. And they told me, don't move or you're going to pull your chest tube out and blah, blah, blah. And I'm asking my family around me, what happened? What happened? And then I was like, are my dogs okay? And your dogs are fine. And I was like, is the car okay? Are the kids okay? Are you okay?
Everything's okay.
Where's daddy? What happened? Is mom okay? What's going on? And the only thing Jeff would say is, you were sick. Well, duh. I know I was sick.
In case you were wondering.
What
You were sick.
happened? And he said, you were sick. And I was like, you got sick. And I was like, I know I got sick.
And she
but-
was coming
Off of the sedation,
Yeah.
so I'm like, you're sick. You was sick.
Yeah.
but they had
You were sick.
That's all I can tell you.
Man,
You
this
were
woman's
sick.
slow. I don't know what else to tell you.
But
You were
no.
sick. I mean,
but I couldn't piece all the puzzles together because especially when you've lost 5 days on your own
Yeah.
and then you're sedated for 5 additional days, that's a whole span of time that you don't get that back. And it throws you off a lot.
and see, our family doctor, he came in. I think he did daily visits,
Yeah.
and I'm wanting to say it was Saturday or something. But I had asked him. I said, "Is she gonna pull through this?" And he said, "Well, I got all the doctors, the best doctors and the best nurses working on her.
Yeah.
And then I went home that night, I think, and God had told me that she is healed.
Now, when doctors say we have all the best doctors, We're doing everything we can. That means get your affairs in order, make your arrangements.
Really?
There's nothing more we can do.
But then when I went home that night, that Saturday evening,
Wait, in the time frame, when did they say that to you? When they said we have all the best
It was Saturday.
I believe it was Saturday,
that
because then when
Saturday.
I went home, the Lord had told me she is healed. Well, then Sunday came around, we had church,
Yeah.
you know, and I was at the hospital with her. Well, Sunday morning, y'all started
Playing praise and worship.
Yeah.
And then
Pastor Phil at the time started preaching after praise and worship.
He never got to preach.
No,
That-
he never got to preach.
That
y'all,
was
y'all was
supposed to
praying.
be our first baptism service.
So
It was the
y'all
first
started praying, and I was playing the phone. I had the phone up by her ear,
Yeah.
playing worship,
and
and that's when she woke up.
and you were
And
playing.
I was FaceTiming Pastor D at the time too, I believe.
And the song,
Mm-hmm.
you were playing over and over, and that's why it means so much to me as nothing else. That's why I like that song so much.
So,
And I don't remember waking up to
and then
that.
she started waking up,
I don't
Yeah.
remember all that.
and then Vernon had brought a prayer cloth. It was a Kleenex, I guess. Y'all had anointed it
Yeah.
at church, and he brought it up there. Where she was awake when he got there, I believe.
It worked.
Apparently,
That's so cool.
Apparently.
The Holy Spirit was so powerful in that room that day.
Yeah.
I can't explain it.
And I just want you to know that when I did wake up, I do remember this part. That when they got me back from wherever they took me to remove the garden hose, and they brought
I
me
was there
back
for that.
They brought me back to my room, and
It was nasty.
Jeff made well, I'm sorry. Jeff made a phone call, and he came in. He said, "Hey, I want you to talk to somebody." He had FaceTimed Pastor D, our children's pastor. Keep in mind, I've lost 10 days. I look like warmed over dog mess. I look awful. And here he is with FaceTiming Pastor D, and I'm here. No, make nothing.
That's why
Hot mess.
Jesse, when she
Mess
had the baby,
Express.
I didn't take a whole lot of photos of her because I didn't want to be embarrassed.
Man, and she's just crying, and I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. Are you gonna be okay? She's like crying, and I'm like, what's wrong? You're okay. And I'm like, I didn't understand.
still-
Still
so-
coming off the sedation and everything, you know.
And I swear, my ICU room was right next to the helipad that they have at Longview, and it really is.
It is.
It really
and
is.
She kept saying, "Did you know they landed helicopters out there?" I said, "Yeah, they landed about 2 or 3 while in here."
And I swear, because when they sedated, when I woke up, after I woke up, I was awake for 48 hours
And
straight.
she said, "Did you know they land helicopters?"
They were
out there
landing
every day?"
helicopters
I'm
like
like, no,
all
not
the
every
time.
day.
Why were you up that long?
because I'd been asleep for so
So
long.
you're just natural. You didn't sleep at all.
So she was in the room by herself, wide awake.
And I was like, the TV they had posted or mounted on the wall.
Yeah.
It looked. You know those mermaid pillows that you
Yeah.
the
Asked her
twins?
while I was there. I said, "You want me to turn your TV on?" Because she likes to, sleep with the TV on. Oh, you want me to turn it on? She said, "No, it's a pillow."
It
Well, go up
was
there and lay your head down.
pillow. But,
I was going with it.
But
I
as
should have went ahead and turned it on for you.
I progressively, I got better. I got better as the days went on.
Her numbers was improving, and
They
everything.
were.
and
Everything
numbers
was.
being oxygen numbers, or so when in this whole process, what are they watching to know that you're getting better besides the breathing?
They're watching the breathing. They're watching the kidney enzymes. They're watching the liver enzymes for sure. They're watching all of my labs.
Everything. They'll come in and take her labs and check them and watch them.
They're making sure everything's
so
okay.
everything's starting to come back up.
Everything's starting to normalize, and so they finally get a room on the medical floor, meaning they can downgrade my condition, which means I don't belong on ICU anymore. The nurse practitioner for the cardiothoracic surgeon that came in and threw the chest tube in, and I mean he had to throw that thing in. And you think about everything they have to go through to put that thing in. They have to go through several layers.
And they didn't stitch it up when they pulled it out.
didn't stitch it up, and it's about that big.
Yeah.
And he came
It
in.
healed up on its own from the inside, out.
She came
wherever.
in and she had to pull that chest tube. And it just so happened our oldest, she was there when that happened. And And they don't medicate you before they do that.
I was at work that day.
Thank
and
God.
So Morgan was up there.
They don't medicate you before they do that. They don't do that because narcotics depress your respirations, and they want you to breathe and scream while they're doing this. So
it's like a baby crying when it comes out. It's
yes,
good for it.
they want you to be able to help push that out and still clear the secretions and stuff. And so, yeah, that happened, and they pulled it out, and it was long. I mean, it was about that long when they pulled it out, but they downgraded me to the medical floor.
When you said your levels and stuff, they started getting better.
Mm-hmm.
What is it exactly that COVID does to do all this? Like, what is it attacking when it
It's
attacks
your whole immune system.
It's different. It's different.
It's different
for
on
everyone.
everyone. That's true. It is.
It's very different.
I don't understand how.
Nobody does.
It's almost like it was grown somewhere.
China. China.
Almost laboratory grown. No, it affects everyone differently.
That's
And
so crazy.
it is. But they were really focused on my kidneys and my liver because those are the enzymes that lupus affects.
So it was already a
And-
weak area, right?
Already a weak
Right,
area,
right.
but
So it attacked your weakness.
yes. But
Mhm.
the remdesivir also, I had just had that, and so that was tanking my
Dude,
kidneys.
yeah.
Mhm.
Plus, all the steroids I had tanked my everything.
Man.
And
It's just crazy to me that it's like
I know
where you were weak.
that's
where
exactly where it got in.
Yeah.
But it was that year, that very same year, that Jeff and I had decided. We didn't decide, we prayed about it. And God told us there was an opening to start leading the outreach ministry. And we thought, why not? Who are we to say no? And so we went to the pastor then and said, yes, we'll do this. And of course, when you start following God's will, Satan comes in and says, no, you won't.
Mhm.
So that's when all this started happening. I got down to the medical floor, and Daddy would come sit with me during the day, and Jeff would come sit with me in the evenings. And it was little things that would happen, like the physical therapist would come in, and when they first came in, I threw them out of my room because
She didn't know who it was.
I didn't know
You
who
want
they were.
these people here. You want to get out of this
I
hospital.
didn't know who, because I was still coming down off of the sedation, and I thought they were from the government coming in to get into my business.
I got COVID. The government's here.
I know. Well, and so they said by not letting them in my room, I had delayed my discharge by several days, and I'm like, whatever. So Daddy comes
So
up.
you didn't let them in at all. You actually didn't let them in at all.
I threw them out.
She ran them off.
I threw them out of my room. I was like, get out of my room.
Vernon was there then.
No, he wasn't. Nobody was there. Morgan wasn't. That was
Oh,
the
yeah,
time when
that's
nobody
right.
was there.
That's
So they were like, Daddy looked at me and he said, you do whatever you have to do
To get out of this
to get out
hospital.
of this hospital. I don't
Yeah.
care what it is. And I'm like, yes, sir.
Don't rebel.
when when Daddy speaks, you listen. So when they downgraded me, those same therapists came into my room, and I was like, I'm sorry, I was so ugly to you before. And they were like, it's okay.
Probably happens. Probably
Probably
more
a
than you
lot.
think.
It probably does. But, they worked with me a little trying to, and week, oh my gosh, for every day that you're immobile in a bed, you lose like
She was
8%
so
of your
weak.
muscle mass.
Really?
I couldn't, so simple. I couldn't take the lid off of a tube of chapstick.
I had to do it.
I had no strength. I
So
couldn't
I left
even
it off. I left
couldn't
it off
even
for her.
spoon
Yeah.
ice into my mouth. It
Got
was
tired of pampering her.
Mhm.
Just left it off.
She could grab it.
I could.
But just
But-
couldn't.
so I just put it on the table. I took the cap off
Yeah.
of it and let her do it.
There
I
was
said,
a
"Here,
point to
I'll
where
just
I
leave it
couldn't
off."
even get it to my mouth. I mean, I couldn't lift my arm because I was so weak.
At that time, how long had you been in there?
At that time, it was
That was freshly after I'd been extubated.
yeah. So that was a Tuesday. So probably Wednesday.
Yeah.
Probably a Wednesday. The next day, maybe,
And then
or maybe Thursday. A couple days after.
probably, and then probably that Friday, I had tried to sit up on the side of the bed.
Yeah.
Not really real. Now I'm able to actually feed myself and stuff, and I got this. So I sit up on the side of the bed, and then I slump immediately.
You didn't fall off, did you?
No, I didn't fall off the bed.
That's good.
But I mean, I was trying to, because Morgan had brought me some clothes. I was going to get dressed and everything. I couldn't put my pants on. And I'm sitting here and this is running through my head. I'm thinking, oh my God, my husband is going to have to take care of me for the rest of my life. I'm going to be an invalid. He's going to have to feed me and change me and walk me. And I'm going to be like the dog. And
Walk me.
he's going to have to water me. And I mean, it's like, he's going to have to bathe me. And he did. And
I did.
Yeah.
you
I would do it again.
have never felt so low at a point that you're so helpless. You can't even do the small things. You can't even wipe your nose.
Yeah. Now, when you start doing your own stuff, did they give you a time frame of when things were going to get back to normal?
Oh,
or you
no.
don't really know?
No. As a matter of fact, when I was down on the medical floor, my doctor came down and he said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to recommend that you go to 2 weeks of inpatient rehab.
For therapy.
For
So
physical
she get her
therapy.
strength back.
muscle and all- okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So there's a lady from the inpatient rehab and she comes by and she sits in my hospital room. She reads my records and she had immediately written me off. She was like, no, this lady's not ever going to qualify. She's not going to do anything. She's too sick. So she comes into my hospital room and I'm sitting up talking,
She's like, wow, I am shocked.
she was like, you are not that girl, that lady that's on those papers. And I'm like, no, God's doing a work,
Have you met Jesus?
Have you met Jesus? And she said, okay, well, this is what we need to do. Call your insurance company and ask for this certain amount, certain thing. And I was like, okay, so I guess that the insurance company decided since they spent $1.75 million that they weren't willing to spend any more. So they
In the hospital.
They denied inpatient
Well, I mean,
rehab.
that's probably what I call it too. I mean,
Yeah. So
you might as well make it an even two, right?
Yeah.
So my doctor, they had just admitted somebody next door to my hospital room on the same floor that was really, really super sick, and there was nowhere for them to go to ICU.
Yeah.
So they were next door to me, and he said, "We got to get you out of here." And I'm like, "Okay." So he wrote discharge orders, and
we sat there.
I was determined.
Oh,
I was
all
determined.
day.
I know. I was determined that I was going to go home, and this was it. But and I would sit there and I would cry. All these things are going wrong, but look at what God has just done. He has just brought me out of. He has just healed my body in a record amount of time.
Yeah.
Nobody stays on the ventilator for 5 days. They're usually on there for 2 weeks, and then we're talking like tracheostomy and things like that. Nobody. I mean,
What's a tracheostomy?
it's a hole in your throat.
Yeah.
That thing. Oh, but
I saw a guy one time that he was a smoker and they had to do that.
mhm.
He's still out there smoking.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they smoke right there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
Absolutely. But I'm talking to Daddy, and he said it through my recovery so much. I just wanted to punch him. All things work together for the good,
Amen.
and I'm just like, I'm not even hearing it anymore. I'm hearing all things work together for the good. Where's my good? Why isn't it working the way I want it to? And he was like,
All in God's timing.
God needed me to go home. God needed me to go home because he needed that to be able to show everybody what he can do, not what can happen in an inpatient rehab. And so I went home, and Jeff was assured that I was safe at home because I couldn't make it up and down the stairs
So
that our house
couldn't
has.
escape.
Couldn't escape until I figured out a way. But I called. There's a rehab place right down the road from us
in Kilgore.
that I had seen. I always thought it was a drug rehab.
Oh,
But it's not.
physical therapy.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a physical
Mhm.
therapy rehab.
Yeah.
I always thought it was like it's a treatment center, and I thought treatment center, it's a drug rehab.
Yeah.
But I called them anyway, and I was like, "Do you guys know any outpatient rehab, physical therapy places?" They were like, "Yeah, we are." And I said, "Okay, well, this is my story." And I started telling my story to the secretary, and I bawled the whole time. She said, "Oh, you poor thing. Get a referral from your doctor, or you want me to call him? I'll be happy to do that for you." I got in there, no questions asked. And of course, shout out to the insurance company. They were like, "Oh yeah, we'll pay for outpatient rehab." So they scheduled me for 12.
What's the difference?
Exactly. It's the same thing, ain't
You
it?
just don't live there.
It's
But
the same thing. Same
They-
insurance.
they scheduled me
Insurance
for
people are.
Yep.
They're retarded.
Yeah.
But they scheduled me for, I want to say
3 weeks.
it was 16 treatments.
Yeah.
I went to 6. And the therapist looked at me and said, "There's nothing else I can do for you.
Really?
I'm wanting to say it was 3 weeks.
You're done."
You went two times a week, wasn't it?
I went I went twice a week for 3 weeks, but they had scheduled me to go twice a week for 8 weeks
Yeah.
because nobody had ever recovered this fast.
Yeah.
And by the sixth treatment, she was walking on her own.
He said that I can't do anything else for you. You've got your balance, you've got everything. So they discharged me. And I was like, okay. So I called Jeff and I was like, I'm discharged. And so life was, life was great. And then the next year we went to our doctor and it had been a little bit over,
A little over a year.
a little over a year.
Doing our yearly physical.
Yeah, just doing a physical and went in and they, of course, they always draw labs. They have to always draw labs.
See where you're at.
And so, Jeff is always
Insurance.
the perfect picture of health. And so he looks at me and he says, "Cassie, we've got to talk about this." And he said, your liver enzymes are 40 times the normal value. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So God's already brought me through COVID. He's brought me through healing. He's brought me, I'm up on my feet. I'm back. I was back at work.
So more is bad.
More is bad.
Like,
Yeah, way bad. Like way bad. Like liver transplant. He was saying things like
Really?
He was thinking like oncologist, cancer. He was starting to throw some pretty scary words out
From
there.
all
And
that
so-
other stuff that she was dealing with, COVID and all
Yeah.
the treatments and everything that they had given her.
So he had started throwing these
so this is how long late?
like a year, a little over a year later.
You started having issues.
And so he said this is likely from lupus, you having a reaction to the remdesivir or something. And I was just like, you know what? He sent me to a gastroenterologist. We went and they did an ultrasound. Everything came back normal. There was no blockage of anything. Everything was normal.
Mhm.
And they redrew my labs and all of a sudden everything was fine. And I'll never forget. I know. I'll never forget. I went up. Your dad was actually at the church that Sunday when I went up for prayer. And
He was praying over healing, or
He
preaching
was.
over
He
healing
was
or
preaching over
something.
healing.
Yeah. Mhm.
and the Dills, brother and sister Dill, were there
Yeah.
that Sunday. And they sat behind me and sat behind both of us. And Sister Dill reached up and she said, "You're going to have the best testimony out of all of this." And we do. I mean, we do. God healed my liver. Because, honestly, we were looking at a liver transplant and oncology and like chemo and all those scary things.
Yeah.
And
The words you don't want to hear from a doctor.
of course not. Of course not. But last year, this whole time, and I think I even asked you once. It may have been once. I don't even remember. I've asked several people. I would ask the question. I would even ask Jeff. I was like, why? When I would struggle breathing, walking down the hall, when I would struggle walking 10 feet without, feeling like I had just run a marathon, when my joints would start hurting, when something would go wrong, I would ask, why am I still here? Why am I still suffering? Why did God spare me?
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't understand any of this. But last year was kind of rough for the Elias family. We admitted my mom to hospice,
Yeah.
and then she passed away in May. And then 3 months after that, Jeff's dad died unexpectedly. And then we had a good friend of ours, his wife died. And while I'm sitting on the phone, I had called him to see, how he was doing. Is there anything that you need from us? And it was like
One thing after another.
it was everything. It was everything. And all of a sudden I heard this small voice in the back of my head saying, "This is why. as I'm counseling him, who would have been there to counsel him?
Yeah.
Who would have been there to hold my daddy's hand while we admitted my mom to hospice? It was like, It's a Wonderful Life. And Clarence comes in and takes you out, and you're seeing your life play before you. Who would have been there for our oldest daughter during the worst breakup of her life to let her know that she's worth so much more than Whistle Britches made her feel like she was?
Whistle bridge. That's an old school term. A whistle bridge.
Well, that's what Daddy calls him. So, who would have been there, for our youngest when adults were coming at her trying to, dog her for the gift that God's given her? Who would have been there for Jeff to hold his hand as his wife?
Yeah.
Who would have been there to reach out to these countless women at the House of Hope? And who would have been there to help lead the outreach ministry? Who would have done that? And he said, this is why. And so much. And that's why Ephesians 2:10 means so much to me. So much to me. And I even personalized it. And he made me his masterpiece. For all of the things he made me new through Christ Jesus, to go through the things that he's already planned for me to go through a long time ago. He already knew. And I'm a planner. I have to know what's coming up next. And I have to plan. And if I don't have a plan, I feel out of control. But I have a contingency plan
God
for the
challenged
plan.
that, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. So it's been hard. But we've grown real close together. I mean, it's actually strengthened our marriage.
Yeah.
Because I saw Jeff live out our marriage vows in front of my eyes, through sickness and health.
Better or worse.
And it was worse. It was a lot worse.
Mm-hmm. And I would do it again if I had to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, a lot of people would throw in the towel. A lot of people would say, I'm done. I can't do this. This is what we signed up for. So
I can't even imagine that level of devastation when your spouse, like, you were in a place where you had no control. You just had to ride it out and pray.
Mm-hmm.
So
put it in God's hands, God's in control.
with
So.
that being said, has this whole experience changed the way that you pray and believe?
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because if God can raise Lazarus from the dead, if he can part the Red Sea, if he can bring me out of that mess within, from
And
the
it was
time,
quick. It was quick.
From the time I was intubated to the time I went back to work was less than a month.
Wow.
That's unheard of.
That was unheard of. Doctors.
Well, I know it was the next week or the week after.
Mhm.
I look up, I'm on the stage getting ready to put my ear things in. I look and you're sitting I'm like, what are you doing?
It was because we had missed church for 3 Sundays. It was the one Sunday I was sick, the one Sunday I went back that I don't remember, and then the next Sunday that
and she went home with a walker. She was walking.
and the next Sunday that I was healed
in the house.
And we had missed those 3 Sundays, and I got out of the hospital just in time, and Jeff was like, yeah, I think you're going to stay home and this week. And I was like, no, I'm not. And it was hard, but
all the rest of y'all out there making excuses for not going to church.
But I said, I'm going to go to church and I'm not going to be using my walker, but stay close just in case I need to grab you. And if I fall, you're coming with me. So, and I did. I remember he opened the doors and you guys were up there playing on the stage, and I walked in and you guys were like, oh my God, why, why, how are you here? Why are you here? What,
Did y'all accidentally come here? Like, you're not supposed to be here.
No,
right
this
now.
is not an accident. No, that was a good service.
It
and,
was.
Lewis, that was the same day that he came up to Jeff. He hugged Jeff and shook his hand and stuck $100 bill in his hand to pay for the
Thank you, Lewis.
traffic ticket that we got on the way back from his service. But
Give me one of those handshakes. I had to pay for it myself.
but he
And we got the same ticket. That's crazy.
I know.
The same one.
Do that cop. Oh.
but he came over to me and he hugged me and he started crying and he said, I thought I almost lost you. I was like, nah, I'm too stubborn,
Yeah.
No. God said, I'm not done yet.
And then we lost him.
And then we lost him.
Yeah.
He drove himself to the hospital. You know, he was the last one he seen was me and Cassie. Besides his wife, he was the last one to see him. Yeah.
But
Yeah, that tore me up.
you know, it I would ask God after that, you know, after that whole ordeal, I felt really guilty. You know, why did you spare my life? Out of all these other people like Richard and Roberta and Lewis, why did they have to go?
Yeah.
Why did they have to die? Why did you spare me?
Because God's not done with you yet.
Because God's not done yet.
So are you saying that all things work together for the good of the those that love the Lord?
Is that what you're saying? You are correct. You are correct. Yes.
Are you saying you found your good?
I'm saying I found my good. Yes. Yes.
It is oftentimes when you go through some of the hardest struggles in your life and situations and seasons that for me, I really I have a compassion for people that I wouldn't have normally had without going through that pain.
Absolutely.
And being able to pray in faith. And then you have things like Lewis and Richard that we prayed. I was hoping, I believed.
And that deal about Richard, I went to go see my brother in prison that Sunday. Yeah. I come up for a little bit before I had to leave, and he hugged my neck, and Richard don't hug. He did the handshakes, but he had this bag of medication.
Yeah. He was going to give his testimony. He was going to sing a song that morning.
That's right.
Too.
And then I got her message. She said, "Did you get my message?" I'm like, "No." I'm like,
he called me and I told him, I said, Richard's gone. You know, and it happened just like that. But you know, for the longest time I felt so guilty. He had so much more life left.
Yeah.
You know, maybe he didn't. You know, when God says come on home, and you know he's so happy up there. You know, he's building houses, and
I mean the way he went, he would have specifically on purpose asked God, let me go out just the way he did,
and he did,
praising Jesus,
with
his guitar in his hand,
that's right,
absolutely,
worshiping,
absolutely. I mean, that's the best. That I think he went on his own terms.
Now he died before Lewis, didn't he, or was it after?
I think it was before.
I think it was before.
I'm pretty sure because that was the catalyst in my leadership.
Because they was both sick together, I believe.
Yeah.
And then he got out of the hospital.
Yeah. So I guess Lewis was still in there, wasn't he?
He was. He was.
Not Richard. Lewis had drove himself to the hospitality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So when that happened, we were new to being the pastors of the church.
Yeah. I remember. I remember.
Pushed all the chairs out. They came and got him and took him out. And I went in the corner where we had the baptistry at the front when it was over there.
Yep.
I went over there and sobbed. And it sounds selfish, but I mean, I'm the guy now. I'm like, Lord, how do I turn around and talk to these people?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
When this, what do we do next?
Right.
And so I just got up there and I couldn't stop crying. I'm a big baby anyways.
Well,
but God allowed me, and it sounds selfish, but just like y'all's situation, God allowed me to go through a place of brokenness.
Yes.
That catapulted me to a place in Him that I never would have gone otherwise. That makes sense.
Well, and I don't think that, in fact, I know that maybe I didn't go through that for me. Maybe I didn't go through all of this for me. I mean, I know I've learned a lot from it, but maybe somebody else needed it. Maybe somebody else needed to see how I would handle it. Maybe somebody else needs to hear this. You know, somebody that has suffered from long COVID and somebody that has suffered from being on the ventilator, or, you know, maybe somebody's family member, maybe they've been there, you know, on the other side where Jeff has been. And maybe they need to hear that story. Maybe that's why, you know, we've gone through. But I know our faith has grown. I know it has, because I know God's He's not too small to do anything, and there is nothing great, nothing too big for Him. I mean, if he can bring me back that fast, you know, less than 30 days, that's. People don't do that.
Considering what she had and what was going on with her.
People don't do that. Being discharged from physical therapy so soon, that's unheard of. No, I mean, I still carry a chest tube scar that kills me a lot.
Oh, is it still painful?
Oh,
Not as bad.
not near as bad. They make this medieval torture device that
It's like a metal.
it's like a metal shoehorn, but it's used to scrape scar tissue. It's awful.
And work it out.
Work
You know?
that scar tissue out, but where that
it
scar
helps.
tissue is between your ribs, it
Yeah.
hurts a lot.
I bet.
But
Mhm.
Jeff has gotten in there and he's had
Hold still. I got this.
Dig in.
he's endured several bruises from it too. So,
She feels a lot better when I do it too.
but it's
so it kind of
it's a lot
stretches
better.
it.
But yeah,
Well, is that supposed to go away eventually?
No, she'll always have it.
The pain too, or that will get better.
the pain goes with the scar because the scar
Just
when
the
they
placement
take
of it.
when they take the chest tube out, they don't stitch you up. It heals from the inside out. So there's a
So
scar.
she had a hole like this.
There's a scar as deep as that chest tube was in. There's scar tissue. So it healed. That's healing by primary intention.
So it's still healing.
It's healed. It's healed already.
Inside.
No, there's scar tissue in there. I'm not going to argue with you.
Dr. Cassie, watch out! Don't
Listen.
argue with her.
No, but there's scar tissue in there deep, and so that's why it hurts so
Okay.
bad. But you can't scrape that deep.
So now I have a question.
Okay.
Are you still mad at Jeff for?
You know, every now and then, I'll do something or he thinks I'll do something that'll irritate him. And I'm like, yeah, you're the one that put me on the ventilator.
That's
So-
all right. I had to do it again. I would.
Well,
Yeah.
if I ever had to do it, I would.
You ain't gonna stop me.
I haven't had one of our cousins. I even tried to have one of our cousins drop an advance directive. Well, it wouldn't do any good because he could still override it no matter what I said. So, but if it's not time, it's not time.
Yeah.
And you know, it's kind of ironic. It just so happened before I went into the hospital the first time, Jeff and I had sat down, and we had never done this, and I don't know why we had never done it. I just always taken care of it, and he just always let me take care of it. But I had gone over with him how the bills are paid.
Oh yeah.
On
you
the
know,
phone and stuff.
on my
Yeah.
phone. You know, that you go here and I have them all in like the little section and, you know, with their little check marks. And
A lot of people don't think about that until it's too late.
well, and
Mhm.
he didn't know. And I was like, well, no, you know, look. And it just so happened that
I had to pay some bills.
he had to pay some bills. And
He made it through it.
he did, you know, we have everything together. Everything's together, you know, our checking account and everything. But he always just lets me get in there, and I always tell him, look, I'm paying. I'll tell him when I'm doing it. I'm paying the house. I'm doing
Right.
this, but he never watches me do it. But he did. He watched me do it, and then I remember this one other thing that he was like, okay, I tried to pay the electricity bill, and
It wasn't
I
ready
got
yet or
in here,
something.
and it said this, and what do I do? And I'm like, high off of Dipper Dan, and I'm like. And I think I've typed in maybe the right
Muscle
number.
memory or something.
Right. Well, you know, and it's funny you say that too, because it's amazing how fast your muscles remember things.
Yeah.
Because I mean, every day Jeff would gripe at me at home, why aren't you using your walker? Well, because I'm remembering how to actually walk, you know. But yeah, it was.
Get your walker.
But
Come on, lady.
oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I was having to.
And through all that, I missed work and all that, and then I got a little pay, you know. But for the most part, that 1 week I didn't get paid at all. I said I'm not even worried about
yeah.
money right now.
Yeah.
So
But you know, all of our
All-
bills were paid.
bills was paid, tides was paid.
That's awesome.
Food was in the grocery, in the refrigerator, in the freezer.
So-
Nothing. We didn't miss a beat. Not.
It's
A,
almost like God knew it was going to happen.
it was almost like he knew. It's almost like he.
Tricky.
It was almost like he had planned it.
Yep.
I mean, but it was a traumatic experience. I hope that we never have to go through again.
Yeah.
No.
But I wouldn't change anything really.
So
Other than maybe going to the hospital a little sooner. The first.
if only somebody would have listened.
I said, you need to go to the hospital. No, I'm fine. Well, you should have went a little sooner.
So lesson learned. Listen to your husband, ladies.
Ladies, don't listen to that.
Your camera's over here.
Well, don't listen to that. ladies, don't listen.
That's
She's
great.
Yeah.
new here. She don't understand.
Listen,
science. Okay, so to wrap it up, what would be some closing thoughts that you'd want to share with the people before we close it out?
Always trust God. Always. No matter what, no matter even if it looks like things aren't going your way, even if it looks like you're going to be stuck in a certain position for the rest of your life, even if it looks like, your healing may be a little slower than you think it should be. God has a reason for everything, and he has a timeline for everything. And sometimes that answer is not no, but it's slow. It's wait.
Yeah. That's the
Not
worst.
right now.
That's the worst.
You know,
We have to wait.
like I had to wait 2.5 years to get an answer to my question of why, and had to go through all of these things, the death of my parent, his parent. Just trust God. Trust that he knows what he's doing. And I know it's hard, and it's even now it's still hard to see when you can't see.
Yeah.
He's still there. He's still working. He really is. And it's all for our good. So
Everything.
everything.
That's right.
Hush.
You were right again.
My goodness.
All right.
I'm never going to live that down.
No,
Never. Never.
no, you're not. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us on the live stream today.
I'm one of the walking miracles in our church. We've got several. There's others.
Yeah.
There are others. Jim needs to be on here too.
Yeah. So there's actually several people at our church.
That should
I've
be
had one guy, Kenny. He
Mhm.
came and talked a little bit about his story and cancer and what God's doing in his life for that. And then Jim, and then who else?
Shayna should have.
Shayna.
She
that
shouldn't
car
have.
wreck,
She
yeah.
shouldn't have
That was
survived
a
that
bad
wreck.
Yeah.
But there are Arthur. Arthur was.
He was one of the first when
He was
He was,
the-
the
he
first,
was
he was
the
one of the first
first.
ones. Yeah.
and they didn't even come to our church.
That's right.
Yeah, they typed in on Messenger or something, or on Facebook.
Probably the comment said the chat or what it was on the live stream.
and
I
we
think.
had prayed for him, and God healed his body.
Yeah.
And there are several of us there that should not be there.
Yeah.
We should be dead. We should not be on this earth, but God knows best,
Yeah, he does.
because all things.
Giving you another chance.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. Don't forget to go to YouTube, subscribe, hit that like button, share this video to encourage somebody. Go to the fan page, also Instagram. Make sure you follow on all social media platforms. And below there is a PayPal link if you want to donate to the channel, as well as links that are affiliate links for Amazon that also give a small percentage to help out. If you shop for water, I get a kickback on that at no extra cost to you. Once again, thank you, and we will see you next time.
Faith and Failures Podcast.